I've now.
No, that's not the intro.
That's not the intro?
No.
What's the
Love,
intro?
exciting and new. Come
I should have brought up.
We're expecting you. No?
No. We should have brought up the lyrics for that. The loath boats soon will be making another run. The loath boats.
Somehow I have a totally different trip in mind than I think you do.
And that's shocking to anyone.
No, probably not.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Barry White edition of the Robot Society Live.
I can't remember any Barry White songs, so if I have to sing any of those, I'm in big trouble.
I can't remember a damned lyric, but if I heard a song, I'd probably be able to sing to it, but it's not my skill right now. But I just figured we'd have to say it's the Barry White edition because of reasons.
Okay.
I don't have Barry White's voice, though. Nobody has Barry White's voice.
Just remember, it's not necrophilia if everybody's dead.
Okay, why the fuck did you feel like you had to say that this morning on Discord?
Because somebody was saying, mixing horror and romance, so it seemed like an apropos thing to say.
Apropos, no less.
Apropos. I'm going to use a big word today.
So, Terry, I have discovered something really cool.
Uh-oh.
I don't know how you would do it, but I'm guessing it'll work the same way. I put cinnamon on my grounds before I pour my coffee.
Ooh la la.
And let it brew with the grounds. It actually turns out really freaking nice.
I've never tried anything like that, but I know that some people use cinnamon sticks in hot chocolate, so obviously it's a thing.
Well, I just never understood why there was a cinnamon shaker like Starbucks or name another highfalutin coffee joint, but apparently that's why. Cinnamon
I always thought it was for the hot chocolate and stuff.
Maybe, I don't know. Hello, patrons. How the hell are you? Necrophilia, bestiality, BDSM sounded good, but found out it was like flogging a dead horse. Oh my god! Oh, that's bad, Matt. That's bad. That's bad. Okay.
Now, somehow, I'm not sure that he was only flogging that dead horse.
Crazy. Was it like fucking a rotten ham? Please don't ever do that again. I'm gonna have to cut that little section right there out of you. We put that up on YouTube and use that as a bumper somewhere. Just Terry doing this stupid shit.
That's gonna see our subscriber numbers just drop right to the floor right there.
Hey, it couldn't get lower. Don't worry about it.
Your mom would unsubscribe. Then where would we be?
This is a kink shaming free zone, Terry.
Okay, so I don't bring up any of J.R. Handley's kinks.
Oh,
that's gonna really restrict the conversation.
I was gonna say that kind of derails everything, doesn't it? That's just not a good thing at all. That's just awful.
I like what he said earlier. Now insert sponsor segment. Well, we do have Corpse Coffee, so there is a tie in there.
There's always a tie in with Corpse Coffee, so yes.
Yes, but remember to keep it, PG related. Only drink your Corpse Coffee, nothing else.
Do they make flame retardant condoms? I'm just asking for a friend. After that, I really don't know where else to go with it. Live chat, top chat. You might miss the gems like one Matt just posted. We see, I think, all the chat on our StreamYard.
We do, but if the folks that are watching it there, if they don't have it, if they have it tops, it isn't the same as having
as bottoms.
Well, that's a totally different kink. Now that you mention it, yeah, I was saying this and I was like, okay, yeah, I think this is sounding a little weird. So.
This may not be the kind of.
I thought this was a romance episode. How did it get to be the kinky show? What the hell is going on here?
Well, there's something interesting we can talk about right there. What is a kink versus what is romance? I don't even know how to freaking parse that statement.
What do you do with your cobalt?
What are we calling my cobalt?
Yeah, Jason, my wife suggested that very thing.
NC-17 deck.
What shall we talk about today, Paul? Oh, no.
Oh, the wheel of shame. That's how we need to pick topics from now on. We'll just spin the wheel of shame and see what comes up.
Flame retardant condom for cobalt. I'm not sure that we know who cobalt is.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm very confused. I know it's a mineral. Using a feather as opposed to using the whole chicken. That
I have heard that.
That is the one to show right there. Yes. Kinky and perverse. That is actually a good way to put it. Phrasing again. It was a dragon reference. Oh God, it's so hopeless. Don't be kink shaming. What is a kink, Terry? What is a kink?
Well, in my opinion, a kink is something that you find erotic that is outside the mainstream. So it's a fairly fluid and genetic and movable subject, depending on what society is finding acceptable this week.
It's completely generic, is what you're saying, and yet very specific.
Is this like I know pornography when I see it?
Yes. Yes, very much so, I think. Last week we were talking and I made some statement about grouch porn, or maybe it was you that made the statement about grouch porn. And I was horrified at the very idea. Okay.
You did.
You went and looked it up.
Or maybe you're right. Maybe I did, but then we said, yeah, that's probably a thing. And it's actually Grinch.
A thing.
It's actually, I looked up Grinch
porn.
And Grinch porn is actually a thing.
Okay, so I was looking at making something for Oceania, and went and looked at tentacles, and I can't remember what I typed in. Bye. I can't remember what I typed in, but Google Images came up with Eldritch Cthulhu dildos. That's all it showed. Every image was a rainbow colored or odd colored or really bizarre looking dildo. And all of them had like tentacles instead of the rabbit area. They all sort of looked like tentacles, and I was very afraid.
So how many did you order?
None.
Oh,
none.
You liar.
None.
You absolute liar.
None.
They're going to arrive today. I warrant that the doorbell is going to go off during this show, and it's going to be your dildos arriving.
No. Not unless my dildo is a new monitor. That's not happening.
That's the code phrase we're using this week, is it? It's my new monitor.
I got nothing. Anyway,
well, if you look at Japan, their idea of what may be a little bit mainstream is somewhat different than what is prevalent in the U.S.
America is really a puritanical place.
It is.
And when you compare it to some place like Japan, we look like monks. We just do. It's just a very odd.
I'm not sure that any place would look much better in comparison to some of the weird things that come out of Japan.
Yeah, there's a reason why in Smodcast they have their own segment called "What the Fuck Japan," and they list off whatever horrendously bizarre toy or fashion accoutrement or sexual thing that the Japanese have come out with that week. It's pretty goddamn funny. What the fuck?
And soon it'll be done by robots in the robot brothel.
Yeah, let's not discuss that at the
I,
moment.
I
Yeah,
actually think that's already been done. I think that's a thing. There is a robot brothel out there.
I believe they had to close it down.
How rude.
Actually, JR, I would say a lot of Europe has some interesting stuff. It just you have to go looking for it. But I know Germany has a pretty big, or at least I think Germany has a pretty big BDSM community. At least
And
according
now
to
we will close the dungeon.
at least according to American Mary, which if you haven't seen that flick, wow. Wow. That is a great movie, but it will fuck you up. Good flick. American Mary. Go check it out. And strangely enough, it's a Canadian film called American Mary. Don't ask. It'll just confuse you more. Poor unemployed robots, Terry, give them jobs.
You know, Paul's probably got a few openings in his house.
Yeah.
What, no phrasing comment? Come on.
No, I was too shocked by the idea because my brain was like, what would I need a robot for around here? Walk the dog, beat the cat, because the cat needs beatings. Lots and lots of, oh my God, so many beatings for this cat. Need a lawnmower robot. I need a sweeping robot.
This is from the brothel. You need to be thinking a
Oh,
little bit
brothel.
more in line here, all right?
Yeah, but I believe in repurposing. So in other words, you can use the fluffer robot.
It's going to help you it's going to help you in the shower.
Oh,
yeah, it's going to help you in the shower.
No, you just repurpose it as a vacuum cleaner. What's the problem? You set the suction up to 11, we're good to go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, on the subject of robots, convinced the dancing robots by Boston Dynamics was CGI. No, it's not. No, it's not.
And soon they will be all armed and the world will come to an end because Judgment Day will have arrived.
You know, I saw the article about our wonderful border security folks saying we're going to put these on the border. and I sat there. Oh no, yes, there you go. Yes, very much so. I don't know if Terry even knows what that is.
I don't.
The Tachikomas. You should really watch Ghost in the Shell. What was that bad one?
I saw the movie. It was stupid.
Oh, the live action?
Yeah, it was stupid.
I haven't seen that shit. Watch the anime.
I say crap. It was stupid. It wasn't that stupid, but I'm sure it was absolutely nothing like what.
Watch the anime or read the manga. Watch the anime or read the manga. Just not the new series because it's crap. What was it saying? Oh yeah, they're going to put these things on the border to help out Border Patrol agents. Now, 3 things are deadly to robots: power, heat, and space. With these robots, just looking at them, there's no fucking way they're going to survive a Texas summer. Not possible. So much of their power would have to be devoted to cooling everything. I just don't think that's even a viable thing. It'd be like out there 30 minutes, they start cooking their boards. So until I see a design that says, hey, we solved the heat problem, and I sit there and go, how? How are you solving the heat problem? You're gonna have it farting, methane out off the back end to try and cool it down. What are you doing? And it's going to have to carry around an air conditioner twice the size of it to keep it from blowing up. Just my. I
totally think that the methane farting robots would be a real hit.
That's actually Futurama. That's why all the robots drink alcohol for energy, and then they basically Bart and Felch.
They felch.
Wow.
I see. They are very detailed robots.
Wow. Fart.
And if you don't know what felching is, folks, you can go look it up on your own.
They fart and felch CO2 or methane or whatever the fuck it is as a byproduct, which causes a huge pollution problem. There's an episode about that too. Yeah, there's the other thing. The most lethal to robots is usually its own AI. That's the other part that really scares the shit out of me when they're talking about doing this. It's like, there's no way. I can understand if these things are being, operator controlled. The idea that today's AI is going to be able to do something without like killing its own handlers is pretty
There was
just
a
don't see it
story
happening.
that I read a year ago. Somebody used an autonomous weapons platform in a combat zone and targeted human beings with it.
Doesn't surprise me. We just had them use a Black Hawk helicopter. It was completely autonomous for 30 minutes. See, that goes to the Shell episode for more scary. Yeah. That's a crazy ass science fiction bullshit going on right now. I'm not really a fan.
You know, we're drifting way away from the romance theme, like we were ever on target for
I was
romance.
trying to swing it back that way, but the only thing I had to rely on was more robotic porn devices. So
okay, well, we're going to go ahead and yank this vehicle out of the ditch.
Phrasing!
And take it back to the road.
Phrasing! If you say put it in the garage, we're done here.
Got to trim the bushes before I can put it in the garage.
Hey! Hey! Wow. Fuck you, Terry. What an asshole. Okay, you've now broken the show. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Love, Death, and Robots. Good one, too. Another good one. Yeah. Going downhill. So as we were talking about, maybe we should just drop the whole kink part of this conversation.
I think it's safe to, step slowly away from the kink.
I don't know. We got a coffee kink going on. Sexy coffee.
Roast them beans.
Anyway, we are here to discuss matters of great import.
Oh, no, that's not this show. We don't do that here.
Can we please try for like 5 minutes? Can you give me 2? Can you give me 2 minutes? When you write, you've written a romance novel.
I have written erotica.
Okay, all right, fine. But you have romance.
That is not romance.
All right, fine. But you are a fan of romance books.
Yes.
Okay. That's much more knowledgeable about romance from moment one than I am, obviously. What is the difference between reading romance and putting romance between your characters, where it's not a romance story?
If it is a primarily romance storyline where the end climax, and you'll have to forgive the phrase because that's the right one for the novel, is romance, then it is a romance storyline. It's a romance novel. If it's a secondary plot line, then other things are more important, and that's just an additional payoff.
Okay, but what does that mean?
If the denouement at the end is the happily ever after, and the two have found love, that's a romance story.
What if they found death?
Then it's not a romance story, unless they go happily off into the ever after, hand in skeletal hand, to live in undead bliss together.
That sounds like a book blurb.
I wrote that story, by the way.
Zombies.
You told me to go ahead and write a horror story, and it ended up being a paranormal romance with everybody dying.
Okay, you never did.
Yeah.
I see how this works.
Romeo and Juliet is not a romance.
No, that would be a tragedy. Totally different animal. A romantic tragedy, but a tragedy. No one walks away happy from that particular play or that particular story.
The happily ever after, or at least the happy for now, is the keynote of a romance story. Romeo and Juliet does not have that.
No, it absolutely does not. And I actually, I'll probably go to literary hell for this, but I actually don't really think it's much of a romance either. It's a attraction between two children who are completely out of their depth and don't know shit about the world. But so their love affair, lasts like maybe 3 or 4 days. I can't remember exactly. It's not exactly Yeah, yeah. The story is more about the conflict of the families and their love, the two loved rather than the two loving one another. Die Hard is not a romance. Die Hard is not a
It's
romance.
not the primary, pardon the phrase, thrust of the storyline.
Are you going to keep doing this all day?
Yes.
That's not what your wife said.
Oh!
This genre of discussion around romance is too focused around endings. Yes, they were adults by period standards, but they were still adolescents.
Well, you know,
mentally.
Whether we're talking about romance or erotica, technically it's all about the ending.
Yeah, I guess. Unless your kink is abstinence.
Ooh.
What kind of kink is that?
I don't think that, but there's another one, there's another kink about denial. I'm not sure what it's called, but, getting on the way there, but never actually arriving at the train station, if you know what I mean.
I call that my 50s.
That's the present day. That's your current sex life. Okay.
That was a joke. He's sad. Jared said, wow, will you too much foreplay, DRS? Really? Romance is the journey, I suspect.
Perhaps.
I can see that. The romance, granted, I've read very few. The journey is definitely part of it, but the love affair is, no matter how it gets moved around, whether it's due to external conflicts or internal conflicts, or two people just finally admitting they got the hots for one another, all of that kind of ratchets up together to create the romance. It's all part of the journey is the romance, essentially. I mean, the book.
I agree with that.
The book that we read, who's by your favorite romance author,
Nora Roberts.
Thank you. You could remove the whole serial killer thing. You could remove this. You could remove that, and you would still have just two people who are not really sure about one another. But the more they interact, the more they come to like one another. The more that they see one another without the foible or without the facades that they put up in public, because they're two people who are quite different private public wise. And so once you see those faces cracking, that's where you get the actual romance that goes on there. So you can remove all that other shit from there.
Yeah, but the other shit, I think, is what makes the story interesting.
It is. But I'm saying when you take all that out of it and you reduce it, you're really just talking about two people who are finding a way to discover one another.
I forget what the quadrilogy is named, but Nora Roberts also wrote a 4-book series about 4 friends, and they were all romances dealing with them finding their happily ever after, one after the other. So it was like combined 4 novels in a row of the same characters and storylines and their own ups and downs and travails.
Well, you think about
it can be long. It can be long.
Oh, absolutely. But romantic comedies, it's the same kind of thing. Two people just basically Forrest Gump their way into one another. Into finding one another, loving one another. Absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing to do is make them hate each other on sight, and then spend the rest of the story eliminating all of that. I mean, that's kind of what Pride and Prejudice is all about.
Hating each other on sight is interesting. Giving them competing goals that they somehow have to reconcile, that's more interesting, I think.
That is the other part I was going to say about Pride and Prejudice, is that you get that. And of course, we only get the story from one side anyway. Are most romances, in your opinion, do they work best if they're told from one side or if they're told from two sides, multiple sides?
Nora Roberts is a bad example of that type of thing because she does head hopping. You get the story from everybody's point of view, probably including the dog. Everybody gets their turn, usually in the same paragraph.
Okay.
Some other people tend to pick a single person to tell the storyline from, and it's almost always the woman.
At least in hetero romance.
Yes, in standard romance. These days, there are all flavors of romance, but if you go back 50 years, you didn't see a lot of non-hetero romance out there.
Yeah. It's
So
relatively
that's what I was
relatively new
referring to.
mainstream. Yeah. Relatively new in the today's mainstream anyway.
Yes. I can't say that I've read any male romance. I can't say that I've read any lesbian romance. I don't read a lot of romance. I tend to just read Nora Roberts when she gets a new book out. So until she has, until she brings in the man love, I guess I'm not going to know about it.
Okay. Fair enough. Wow, there's so many phrases we could take out of context for a good YouTube reel. Holy shit. So bad. So bad.
I'm not even restraining myself. I'm looking for places to go ahead and trigger the phrasing.
Yeah, you just touch the phrasing button, so to speak. Yeah, that's what she said.
You have a button where you could like flash it across the screen. Phrasing.
If I had a Stream Deck and time, I could do that, but it's not going to happen. Ooh, when will Terry geek out and interview Nora Roberts?
The first of never, because she's far too busy to do interviews with the likes of us.
We're bottom feeders. What are you talking about? Nobody wants to be on this show. Trust
We're so
me.
far down the spectrum. If we ask JR to do an interview, he tells us no.
Yes, Tim. Thank you for the Archer reference. Soulmate. If you believe in only one soulmate, then you likely also believe in predestination. That is an interesting statement. I hadn't really thought about that or considered that.
I have considered that. And it's because of the very same thing with the numbers game. Life is a matter of finding someone that's compatible enough that you can love. Is there someone better suited for you out there? The answer is almost certainly yes. But do you have a lifetime to search for them? And will they be taken by the time you get there? Sometimes you have to struggle to find the one that works best that you can achieve and grab on.
This sounds exactly like finding a reader for your books.
Sounds like finding an author that you want to read.
Yeah, that too. Soulmates plus reincarnation romance could be a thing in certain fantastical settings.
I've read a particular story like that where two people kept being reincarnated in a fantasy setting, that they didn't have memories of each other until they got far enough in the advancement that they could do so.
So what, the more time they spent with one another, the more that they started to remember?
Not necessarily in each other's presence, but the more power they gained, the more they came into their own inside the setting, the more of their previous memories would return.
That's interesting.
It was an interesting storyline. I'll agree with that.
I'm
not sure that it wasn't a romance. So though they were lovers from ages past, the main thrust of the storyline was just like every other fantasy novel with, world-ending things afoot that they had to stop.
Why does everything have to be world-ending? What is your problem? Sorry, Shadow is wigging out. Stop it. Superhero film with Will Smith where that happened?
He was in oh God, I don't even remember what the name of the movie was, but I only remember him in, other than Suicide Squad, in one particular superhero movie that I can't remember the name now. He was a drunkard.
The drunkard, yeah.
And I don't remember the name of it now.
What the F? What are you talking about, Tim? It's going to sound weird, but that was one of the elements used in the anime version of the Highlander. Hancock.
Yes.
Thank you. Huh. Okay.
I don't know that I've ever seen the anime version of Highlander. If you want to see good Highlander, go ahead and watch the TV series. It was much better than the movies. And Adrian Paul is, really nice to look at.
You don't like the French guy?
We're talking about Christopher Lambert?
Yes. Lambert.
He's not much. He's not
Lambert.
Much to look at.
No.
Have you ever seen Adrian Paul?
Yes.
That is not hard on the eyes, all right? As a heterosexual guy, I'll tell you, Adrian Paul's not hard on the eyes.
He's not difficult to look at. I had serious hair envy. He had the most wonderful hair in that show. I never really watched the show. I only saw like a couple episodes, maybe.
I saw most of the 10-year run.
Wow.
It was actually pretty good. They had a lot of things going on in that show. It was pretty awesome.
It just broke canon so hard. But
sometimes you just got to take canon and chuck it out the window.
Says Marvel and DC and every comic book company out there.
Well,
canon, what's that? Speaking
of differences between the shows, last night we watched the first episode of Reacher on Amazon.
And?
I liked it. I don't know who the actor was that played the main role of it. Big guy, really muscular, and the way he acted, it really fit the role of Reacher. And trying to contrast that to Tom Cruise in the Reacher movies. Tom Cruise, just go home, buddy. Just go home, you're drunk, all right?
Yeah. My dad had read some Reacher, and he was like, they cast Tom Cruise. Reacher's supposed to be this humongous dude. He's not this small little shit.
One of the things that they did, they started off the first episode by arresting him for murder as he's going through town. And so they cart him into the local jail in this small town, and they have to use zip ties because he's too big for the handcuffs.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely not Tom Cruise.
And when he's sitting there and they finally are going to take him out of there, he says, come out of there. No, not until you take these cuffs off. The guy's like, all right. And then he stands up and he goes, pop, picks it up off the ground and goes, you guys recycle? It's a pretty awesome show based on episode 1. I'm looking forward to seeing what else happens.
Played Hawk and Titans.
Yes, he did.
Titans?
The Titans show.
Oh.
And by the way, that was an excellent one as well. My wife binged that show, and it was awesome.
Okay. You got to compromise all the current long-running characters to a permanent end, at least.
In what?
I think when I made that comment about bashing Marvel and DC for canon being thrown out the window. In other words, if it's
having trouble reconciling the comment to what you said. What? Explain more, Timothy. What are we going on here?
I have no idea.
You're right. He's referring to Marvel DC. I just don't get the reference. I don't understand.
It's when I said
you've got to compromise all the current long-running characters to a permanent end, at least. Are we talking about movies? Are we talking about TV shows? What are we talking about?
I believe we were talking about comic books, graphic novels, storylines.
Oh,
metaverse,
Lord, they never end these characters in a permanent place.
Exactly. That's the point. That's why you have to keep changing the canon. That's why canon doesn't exist, because the characters never end.
The reason they got to change oh my God, he's taking his clothes off. Somebody blank his screen. Let me kick him off.
I should have played the striptease music.
Now I've totally lost what my train of thought was. Paul starts taking his clothes off. That's a great way to stop me from making a comment on something, because now I have no idea what I was talking about anymore.
I had to take my fleece off, Terry, because you made me so hot. Oof, baby.
I
do declare that I eat eclairs. Oh, God.
What was I talking about, folks? I've totally forgotten now.
Terry's been completely derailed. The whole canon thing.
Oh, canon. Some of these things have been around since before the 20s. They've been around 100 years.
That was
at a certain point, canon is an anchor around your neck, and you've just got to change things.
That was his point. Unless you're going to kill the character off.
Oh, hell, kill him off and just start fresh. New Superman,
Unless
new Superman 3,
what he
new
was
Superman
saying,
8, new Superman 25.
what he was saying is, if you kill them off permanently, then you don't have to worry about canon. But that's not what they do.
They don't ever kill anybody off.
They don't ever end anybody's career. You just travel to another universe. Which is why somebody was like, can we just agree that canon doesn't fucking matter because all graphic novels and everything else are just fanfic anyway?
Well, there's a video out there. If you go look on YouTube, I don't know where it first popped up, but they took the DC character that plays the Flash from the movies, Ezra something or another, and they got him with a Grant, the guy that plays the Flash on the TV series, and they had them meet for about a 3-minute run and talk to each other before they went on their own way, and that was amusing.
Indie comic book. Okay, comics are a dying medium.
I've heard that.
Manga makes money, and why? Because manga is centered on news stories.
Sure.
News stories, new characters, and that's probably pretty true. ROI is cheap. The artists are paid very little. Yeah, that sounds about right. Fuck multiverses. I'm so sick of multiverse bullshit. I'm so sick of it. That's why I fucking checked out. I'm just done with DC. I'm done with Marvel. Fuck them.
You know who else is done with multiverses?
Done.
Loki. Loki is done with multiverses.
Which Loki?
The one from the Marvel series in the movies. And that's kind of the point. If you watched his Disney Plus show, he got caught up in all that and met far more Lokis than he ever wanted to meet. And some of them were downright strange.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you wandered around the multiverse and met every version of you, I think you'd be a little terrified.
He met a crocodile wearing a Loki hat that was Loki and has no idea how that works.
And doesn't really want to know either. Excuse me?
No questions were asked.
No. Move along. Nothing to see here. This is not the droid you're looking for. Get the fuck off my desk. Come here. Thank you, fucker. Sorry.
And it's true. There is a multiverse, and I dragged a character in from one end to the other to play around with it for a few books. And that was interesting.
Because Terry has no goddamn shame. That's why. Terry has no goddamn shame.
Yep, Alligator Loki. There's a big-ass fight in that show where 3 or 4 Lokis are attacked by like 15 other Lokis. So it gets strange pretty darn fast.
I'm having cat issues today. So now you got to see Shadow. You've seen him more today probably than you have the entire time.
Now this here, I haven't seen Jet Li's The One. Maybe I should. I like Jet Li as an actor and an action star. I like him, so I might like it.
DRS viewers, you're getting some tail today. Let me tell you. You were getting some serious tail.
Are we getting back to the kinks?
No, Shadow has just decided that he's not napping anymore and wants to mess with everything. Everything. So when do you want to put romance with your characters?
When it makes sense for the story. If it adds something to the other story that's going on that you're telling, then it needs to be there. If it's a distraction, then it doesn't need to be there. It's very situational.
And just because you have a male and a female working together doesn't mean there has to be any kind of romance at all.
That's correct.
And just be straight up partners, and that's the way it is.
I started off Empire of Bones with the option of having it have a romance plot line, and then decided against it.
With Jared and Kelsey?
And then had a lot of people saying, that's not how I thought this story was going to go. Because I set up the options and then chose not to use it.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I first the first two books, I kind of figured they were going to end up together somehow, but they did not.
They pretty much ended up being the opposite of together. Let's go check out your beard, woman.
I'm not sure what's going on with him today.
I was going to show my ears to the peoples on the webs. Here's my eyeball.
Here's my eyeball. Goddamn cat. What is your problem?
Give you the loves, Dad.
You
Here I comes. I was coming, Dad.
If you hear lots of thumping on the mic, it's because Shadow has decided that the swing arm is something cool to play with. And now he's got the one leg in the air like he's about to swipe at something, which probably means he's going to be swiping at me. Shithead. One of the reasons the X-Files was so good the first couple of seasons was because you had that constant sexual tension between the characters. And they really did love each other. They were both terrified to go any further than that, but that did not hurt the show at all. In fact, it made things better. Had they hooked up, it probably would have been a problem.
Romance made the Castle TV series what it was, and then utterly ruined it.
Never watched the show, but I'll take your word for it.
It was good. And then they actually satisfied the romance, and then the two main actors loathed one another and refused to film in the same scenes anymore.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty much the last scene, and that was the death of the show.
Great.
Or the last season was them. Hello, I was gonna tuck your beard, Dad. Here it is.
Why are you doing this now? Why?
Chasing a romance is a lot more interesting for viewers than catching romance on a television show.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the are they going to do it or aren't they kind of thing. I remember that was a big deal with Buffy and Angel during that series run as well. But of course, you had the added bonus of if Angel gets a Hummer, he completely becomes evil, which is always a problem. But the sexual tension after they brought him back to life for the 18th time or whatever the fuck it was, that did add to things because it was a forbidden fruit between the two of them. Even though they had sampled the forbidden fruit, they could not sample the forbidden fruit again because they found out why it was forbidden. So yeah, I have never written a romance, but I have written romantic relationships between characters, but they're usually not the thrust of the story. To get back to Terry's comment, not really sure I have that particular any kind of like that story in me at this point. Maybe it's maybe sometime in the future I will.
A story like that? Yes. Do I think I'm going to? Probably not.
I'm gonna kill this cat. I'm just gonna kill him.
I was gonna love you real bad, Dad. Right now, here's my love. I was gonna move your microphone with my face because I love you.
You are now pressing buttons on my keyboard. Fuck off. Jesus Christ almighty.
Today, your cat is a lot more, trouble than my cats usually are.
No, he's like 3 of your cats at the moment.
I know.
Like 3 of them. I don't know what his issue is. Good God, what is your problem?
He's on the nip.
Yeah, something like that. Or he's been sleeping for 2 days and now he just woke up. One of the two. What are some other romantic characters or characters with sexual tension that work well?
I don't know that I'm great at answering that.
Somebody brought up Jag. I never watched that show. What's another good show that's got that kind of thing, or good series, good book series? I would say that the constant drift between Harry and the detective is there too. I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Murphy.
Murphy, thank you. I always thought they were going to end up getting together and that it would be a huge mistake.
Hello, Kitty.
Kitty.
Ah! I haven't read the last two books. Things turn, kind of dark. So I have no idea how that's going to work out.
You don't.
Honestly, I think Butters is going to have a better storyline going forward.
Butters with a better storyline. Sounds frightening.
Do you want me to spoil it for you? It happened a couple of books ago.
I am so far behind on my Dresden that it's just ridiculous.
I will say that Butters has something in his possession that makes him a formidable being in the supernatural community at this point.
Is it his artichoke dip? Because I heard it was really good.
No. Do you remember the Carpenters?
No. I know of the Carpenters. I have not really familiar with their music.
Harry's apprentice was their daughter.
Oh, those Carpenters. Okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, we're still talking that particular show. So
I thought we'd switched to music. I got totally confused.
We have not. We're still talking Dresden.
Okay.
Do you remember the Carpenters?
Yeah.
You remember what Mr. Carpenter does for a living?
You mean besides slaying demons?
Besides, slaying demons is the thing. He's one of the wielders of one of those swords.
Right. But he had to
now
give
Butters
that up, right? Because he retired. Oh, shit. Oh, that's frightening. Whoa!
That's what makes this oh, shit moment. Imagining Butters with that level of power.
Tim had a good question. How long will they, won't they go on in an ongoing series?
That's a great question. It's really hard for the creator to determine where it's gone on too long. But if you drag it on too long, people are not going to like it. And if you satisfy it too soon, they won't like it. That's one of the risks of introducing a romance plot line.
Between people who work closely together, or are partners, yeah.
The main characters in a storyline, that's tough.
The anime version of The Killing Joke, I don't remember the relationship between her and Batman being in the actual comic book, but the anime that they did, they have that problem where Batgirl and Batman do the nasty and then things fall apart because it just changes the relationship so much in so many ways. You can't kind of distance yourself from that anymore, which is an interesting problem to have, which I think is why what Dresden did when he fell in love with a woman who was a vampire or became a vampire, his response was just to remove her from the books for like 3 or 4 books, and then have her show up with a new bow. And that eliminated that entire section of things, that kind of excised it, but
reset.
But Harry still has the ache. And that's the interesting way he handled that. Give the HEA and then kill one and turn it into a revenge bot. Depends on what kind of book you're writing, doesn't it?
Nora Roberts did something like that.
Oh, yeah? Do tell.
She's moved on in the recent years from writing romance novels to writing other kinds of novels because she had a falling out of some kind with her publisher and switched publishing houses. So now she gets to write what she wants, right, as opposed to what she was contracted to write. So the stories that she writes may have a romance subplot, but they're not primarily romances anymore. They're other things. And she wrote a book called Year One, where this is the kind of book you would like, Paul, where basically 99.9% of human beings on Earth die due to a supernatural thing being released on Earth. And in that book, you've got the man and the woman with the love going on. There's a pregnancy, and before the child is born, the guy is killed by the bad guy. And so the end of the 3-book trilogy, there's some payback that happens. And so that kind of does happen.
Revenge plots. How many people die because a dog got killed?
Has
there
I think there was like 160 in that particular first movie.
In the first movie.
In the first movie. There's actually a YouTube video of every single kill in John Wick.
Oh my God.
Every single one.
What are they coming up with movie 4 now?
I think he's already got approved for books or movies 4 and 5 at this point. But COVID interfered with the filming production thereof. Wouldn't surprise me if they were going to come along soon.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
They may not, garner as much money as some others, but it's not costing him a ton of money to make them either.
No, not with the sets that they use, because everything's shot pretty much in a locale. They never really leave the city at all.
They do go to different locations inside the cities.
Yeah, but the sets all kind of look the same, though, if you really think about it, which is fine because it fits. It doesn't really matter. Oh, God. That would be like me asking Joe R. Lansdale or Stephen King to come on the show. That would be terrifying for me. I would be sitting here going...
See, obviously, we would have all these great guests to talk to if we only had J.R. Handley as our virtual assistant.
No, let's not go there.
He said, okay, yeah, we'll put that on there.
Wow. Just wow. Go back to getting attacked by my cat. Now he's taking a bath. Not on the microphone this time for once.
Well, that sounds like more of a happy ever after right there.
For him, yeah. Who knows what's good for a neutered cat? I have no idea. Not a clue.
Well, we've talked about romance plot lines. We've talked about kinks. We probably should talk about a few more things romance related.
Rumpy pumpy?
Expand on that.
Well, you see, there's the rumpy, and then you get pumpy with it.
I think that's still in the kink category.
When should your characters have sex?
Whenever's convenient. Oh, sorry, that's the erotica answer.
I thought the erotica answer was as soon as possible and as much as possible.
Well, there's always Chuck Tingle's version of that, so we could go with that.
Pounding in my butt with my own butt, or whatever the hell his new title is.
Something about Wordle.
Oh, Jesus Christ, the man. So hopeless. Either of you have any romance regrets in your novels?
No. The current novel that I'm writing right now, I introduced a romantic subthread and then made a note to myself to yank it back out again when I go back through the editing process because I'm not pleased with it. I don't think it fits the storyline. I think it's inappropriate. Well, maybe inappropriate's a little strong, but I don't think that it fits what the story I'm trying to tell well enough to do it.
Okay.
Maybe later. It may be too soon. Maybe that's it. Feels a little rushed.
I had always intended for Dickerson and Callie Moore to get together. From the moment I wrote those characters, I knew sooner or later they were going to get together. Because of the way Derelict happens and the fact that they're pretty much running for their lives the entire time, there was no place convenient to do it until the very end.
Oh, Sue just arrived right as we were talking that. Oh, yeah.
Sue, you might just want to close the browser and walk away now.
It's too late now. Now you're already here. We've had an hour to get rolling.
You missed all the tail. Anyways, I was saying that romance was supposed to be there or those elements were supposed to be there the entire time, and then slowly started pushing that a little bit more forward in the final book. Because I wanted those characters to get together, and I killed a character to make that happen in a lot of ways, which was an asshole thing of me to do, but it had to be done for lots of reasons. I don't have any regrets about that. When I go back to those characters, that is going to be another element of that mess, is the fact that their relationship is drastically changed. And now they have to, they're lovers, but there's also a command structure. And there's some things that are going to have to change in their relationship to make that work. And it's probably going to cause some issues. And I do and don't look forward to that. But I set that up because I wanted those characters to get together. They really make a good pair in my mind.
Some of the interesting stories that I've read over the years had the characters being exes.
Oh.
Ones that weren't going to be getting back together again, but they were thrown in together into something, and it made things complicated.
Complicated, yes. Because whenever they disagree, some really snarky personal shit could happen. Oh, yeah, you talk like you got a big dick. I know better.
Correction.
Objection. I have the actual measurements here. That those, I think X's are excellent. I think X's are actually, that is a really good device. I think that's a really good device. Yeah, but of course, then you're going to have we're really still in love, we just hate each other kind of thing. And then, of course, they're going to do the rumpy pumpy at some point and make things even more awkward.
What would make an interesting story is if you've got X's involved in something, and not only do they not grow closer together, they continue to diverge as the story goes on, to the point to where one of them becomes the bad guy in the story, and it's an all-out war. That could be interesting.
You just are all about screen time today, aren't you? Jesus Christ. Kind of like calling WW2 an unfortunate incident. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. If you see War of the Roses, that's where shit goes a little far. But yeah, that kind of hate. You can't have people working together that hate each other that much. That's not going to work. You can have low intensity warfare. You cannot have all out war and have that work.
What about guerrilla warfare?
I would say that's low intensity warfare.
It's asymmetric warfare. Well, if you want to be technical about it.
It's usually low intensity too.
Tell that to, Hogan's Heroes, where they blow up the same bridge every freaking episode.
Shall we remind you that was a TV show from the 60s, or are we just going to gloss over that?
Was it from the 60s? I thought it might have been the 70s.
If it was 70s, it was early 70s, I think. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was 70s. I don't remember.
A long time ago. That's how long ago it was.
Have you ever seen the movie about him?
I have heard about it, and I think I may have seen bits and pieces about it, but the man had his issues.
Wow, that is a disturbing fucking flick. Good movie. Really good movie, but I don't think I'll ever see it again because it was really disturbing. Made me really uncomfortable. Return of the Bald Avenger. I'm not even unpacking that comment. Not even
with a heroic pose, the Bald Avenger steps in to save the day.
So I had this strange moment where I was getting ready for the show, and I put the thing out about this being the Barry White episode, and for some reason, Burgess Meredith jumped in my head from the credits to the second Grumpy Old Men movie, the one where he died shortly after they filmed it, and they had like 3 or 4 minutes of him doing nothing but trolling out these phrases, like, you want to take all one eye to the optometrist, it just kept going on and on and on, because he has this scene where he's talking dirty to some lady in the fruit and vegetable aisle in the supermarket. They had him do like a shit ton of takes of this, and he just kept rolling. He just had them all. He just kept, throwing them out there. And I laughed my ass off when I saw that, because he just does it so well. But it really jumped back into my head today, and I don't know why, but it did. We were talking about this whole deal. Was it another plot line from the what?
I don't know what you're looking at.
Oh, okay.
I put that on there. Yeah, I don't read my own reviews, but I got a nasty email telling me all about it, so it probably is the same guy.
Taking the log to the beaver. Yes, that one.
It's like watching Ryan Reynolds and that other guy sit down in Deadpool and just be trading shit back and forth across the table. And they just never stopped. They just kept rolling.
Oh yeah. If they're going to roast each other, it gets ugly really fast. And they're really just good at it.
I don't know who the other person is. I probably should, but I don't.
I don't remember. Yes, Terry and I are both, proud members of the LGBTA conspiracy. LGBTQ. I don't even know the fucking acronym anymore. It just keeps growing. Every time I look, somebody's added another goddamn letter to it. Now I'm just like, I'm old and I don't care. Ooh, any pitfalls of adding romance to a non-romance novel?
We've covered it. It could distract from the main plot line.
Could destroy the main plot line.
It could derail the main plot line.
Yes, that too.
And the end of the world approaches. Meanwhile, in the submarine that is moving to save the Earth.
Yeah, they're having a huge fight.
Yeah, okay. The world dies because they're banging.
Somebody had to go out with a bang.
Ouch.
I know. I'll be here all week, unfortunately. Sorry, I'm getting... I have issues today. I'm gonna kill him. Just gonna kill him. There's places you just do not need that. You just don't need sex unless it makes sense. You don't need the romance unless it makes sense. Period. End of story.
Are there any kinds of stories as a genre or even a subgenre where romance is pretty much verboten?
Can't really think of one. The Alphabet Mafia. There we go. There's a good way of putting it. Is that what we call it now? The Alphabet Mafia? I can't remember the goddamn story. No, I disagree. Psychological thriller can absolutely have romance in it. Absolutely have romance in it.
Blood and gore horror.
You absolutely can have romance in that as well. There's actually a pretty good romance in Salem's Lot. And that actually becomes an important detail because it brings the character to the very precipice. I think in those kinds of things, you can definitely have romance. In horror, I think romance is actually kind of a mainstay in a lot of ways because you spend so much time in the character's psyche that those pieces of who they love, what they care about are usually part of what's put to the test. And so, protecting or having your spouse, your child, your family, your friends threatened by whatever it is you're tangling with is all part of it. And a big reason why it works and why it touches so many nerves the way it does.
And she's right. Romance and sex are not synonymous.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. You are absolutely 100% correct. Slasher fic.
That's kind of what I was referring to.
Disagree again. You can still have it. It still happen.
Okay. We're watching Jason 73. Halloween just can't die. You open the door and there they are, banging away.
Romance can be in slasher fic. Depends on what kind of slasher fic it is. I don't consider Jason to be slasher fic anymore than I consider Halloween to be slasher fic. Those things are almost their own genre into themselves.
But they started off as slasher fic.
I would say they invented slasher
Sure.
Halloween especially, because Friday the 13th came after that one. Halloween was just so fucking incredible. Those stories, no, you don't have that. And I guess typically you don't have that in some of the other really nasty, violent core type, genres. But there's no reason why you couldn't. It would just changes the way you tell the story. Was Jaws originally a love story? I have no idea. I've never read the original Jaws. Slasher flick minus sex equal death.
Not the little death either.
Not the little death. Well, if you remember the rules set up in Scream, where they basically say, okay, here are the rules for surviving any kind of slasher attack. Don't have sex. Don't do drugs. Never go anywhere alone. Those are the big three. Oh yeah, number 4, don't be a virgin. Don't be a virgin. You don't want to be the final girl either. Trust me, you don't want that shit.
I forget what it was. There was something I was watching, and one of the characters had a realization. Oh my God, I'm the comedic sidekick. Oh my God, I'm the comedic sidekick.
That's probably one of the Scream movies. That was so meta. The first one, even the second one, and the third one, they've got that meta in there for that one character. But those takedowns of the entire genre are 100% correct. 100% correct. I can't remember a teenage slasher flick where 2 characters boned and didn't get killed. And usually they get killed while having sex or just after.
Yeah, I've seen that particular scene a few times.
Yeah, it's kind of a mainstay, especially in the Friday the 13th movies. They've always got that going on. But Halloween starts out that way, and another thing like that occurs in the middle. Sorry, a lot of phrasing things going on in my head today for some reason.
Is this where we need Captain Helmet Head again?
Captain Helmet Head? What?
What was it? Somebody
Captain Subtext.
Captain something else they were talking about. What was it? Now I've forgotten. Somebody in the comments used something that was along those lines. Now I have to try to find it again.
Captain Helmet Head?
It wasn't quite that, but yeah.
No.
I don't remember what it was. It was something like that.
Lies, I tell you. Okay. Had to turn off my coffee cup. You know,
it would be really awesome if your coffee cup just burst into flames. I was like, flames,
like my monitor.
The Bald Avenger. There it is. That was mentioned earlier in the comment thread. So yeah.
I can't think of a single genre or story that you cannot have romance in. I can't think of one. There's always a way to put it in there. Phrasing. There's always a way to add those details to the characters, provided that the story supports it. You don't simply put that in there. You don't just put that in there for the hell of it. There has to be a reason for it to exist. So I just can't think.
James Bond has had romance in it.
Even James Bond has had romance. Yeah. The man who basically boinks anything still has the capability to have actual romance. So I don't think there's any genre or subgenre or anything else that can't support it. It's just a question of whether or not the writer is going to take the time and effort to make it happen, or if the story calls for it. But like we said earlier, that is the big thing. If it doesn't move the story forward in some way or cause other conflicts, there's no reason to have it.
Well, see, JR, what you need to do here, he says that he has no romance, well, no sex, at least any stories edited by your mom. You need to go ahead and send her a story where you at least have a little bit in the middle where it's a little parentheses mark inside brackets. It says, insert office destroying sex here.
There's a reason why John Irving said that all authors have to be orphans. I know that what I write is going to be read by my father, is going to be read by my mother, is going to be read by my sister, and is going to be read by, well, shit, most of the old people in my life. They all read my books. I know they're going to read it. I don't think about that, but there are moments where I go, okay, oh, this one's going to make mom go, oh my, it's like, okay, shit happens. It's got to go in there because the story calls for it.
It could be worse. Your mom could send you a video message, holding up your papers. I just got to read this, and I have to say one thing. I'll be in my bunk.
Oh, God. That'd be too creepy for words. Robert Stickmans was telling me that, oh my God. She sent me notes. It said, don't know what you and your wife do, but go practice and then rewrite this scene. Okay, so that's kind of where I was going with this for a second. Robert Stickmans told me that he has a buddy who writes as a truck driver, write erotica, and he would just send it in. So he had all these different books out there, romance and erotica stuff. And his friend was a preacher, and the preacher's wife read all his books. And at some point she said, I don't think that's anatomically possible. I think maybe you need to rethink this, see, because I don't think that's anatomically possible. It's like, okay, so
is that where you give her whatever that book is with the yogi sex positions?
The Kama Sutra.
The Kama Sutra. There we go.
The pop-up version, zero gravity edition.
Yeah, if you say so.
It's a Red Dwarf thing. The pop-up Kama Sutra Zero Gravity Edition. Yeah. Frightening. You have to be an orphan. You can't worry about who's going to read it and what they're going to say. That's for beta. You can't worry about it when you're writing it. That's for later. When you can say, maybe I took this a little too far. Maybe I didn't take this far enough. Or maybe I wrote it just the way it should be. So that's a completely different kettle of fish, so to speak. But again, do what makes sense for the story. If you're writing about sex demons, there needs to be some sex. There kind of needs to be something there showing that off. It can only be like having a vampire, but the vampire never drinks blood.
What's it? Nobilis Reed wrote a story where Star Drive is powered by sex.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something could be worked in. Sex or romance to just about everything.
Yeah. What if sex is required, but love is not expected, or love is verboten? You're not supposed to fall in love with your partner.
A world where everything is one night stands all the time. And then someone finds true love. And society must hunt them down.
Strangely enough, when I read Asimov's Robots of Dawn, he does kind of cover that a little bit. About the 3 different societies. You got Earth Society, which functions one way with relationships. Then you have another one that was much more socially distanced, where that kind of stuff is just never talked about. And then you have another one where they just change partners at will, anytime. Any book that advises using bee stings to cure impotence needs to be addressed. Addressed to whom? As JR said, go on.
Why are you looking for a publisher?
Are there any genres where you should not have sex scenes? No.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
There is absolutely a genre where you should not have sex scenes.
Which is?
It's the Christian romance books. You probably should not have.
Okay.
You probably should not have a sex scene in those.
Define sex scene, though.
I don't think it's actually called Christian romance. I think it's clean romance. Clean romance, I think, is what it is. There's actually a genre of romance that does not go ever into the bedroom.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? you can show two characters kissing. You can show them. You can do the in harm's way thing that they did, where the nurse comes in John Wayne's bungalow and they're obviously going to get it on, but the way they show them getting it on is she takes off her shoes and puts them next to his, and then we leave the scene. That was kind of like the 50s way of handling
not having a sex scene. That's closing the door.
You're allowed to close the door. Right. You're allowed to close the door. You just can't show them actually doing things.
Keep your clothes on in that clean romance, people.
I would not even call that Christian erotica. I would call that a Puritan erotica. That's what I would call that. Has nothing to do with Christian. It has to do with Puritanism. That's just me. I wouldn't call it Christian erotica. It's just puritanical bullshit. There's chastity belts.
We should rush right out now so that we can write our Amish erotica.
Along with our Amish zombie apocalypse story, we need to do our Amish erotica. Eli, I love the way you churn butter.
Your beard is so strong.
Oh. Clean romance and sweet romance.
Sweet romance is the other one, yeah. But there are definitely versions of romance that don't have sex.
Okay, middle grade. Okay, yeah. All right, if we're gonna go into kidlit, then yeah, I guess you're right.
A lot of the stuff that's written for kids touches a lot of subjects that include sex.
Yes,
and it's in these books.
Some of it is. I remember
drug use, sex, all of those things are in these books.
Jebediah. Judy Blume's Forever, I think, was the first teenage book I read that had like real sex in it, where they really were talking about it. And I think that book got her in a lot of trouble. But actually, for adolescence, I think it was perfect the way she handled it, because it basically brought up all the really nasty issues. You know, STDs, pregnancy, all the other crap that goes on there. And then, you know, did I just get fucked or am I in love? You know, kind of thing. And all those things are very, very important, I think, to that mindset and that age. You don't have to have, I know today's teenage lit goes a lot further than teenage lit did when we were kids. There's, what is it, new adult or whatever, that can get pretty racy.
New adult is college age stuff.
Okay, what's the one before?
Believe technically the characters are college age.
Young adult, high school kind of stuff. I get confused when you say stuff like that, because are we talking about the readers or the characters?
Characters in this case. I believe that what'd you call it? Now I've lost the name.
New adult.
New adult, I believe, is college age characters.
So that brings up a question. Is a young adult book supposed to have young adult characters? Is that why it's called young adult, or is it because it's designed for those people? Yeah, I know, Sue. I messed it up. Eli would be saying, "Oh, Alisa, I love the way you churn that butter." Or is that better?
Not at all. No, thanks.
You spelled Bloom wrong, but okay. Yes, I'm sure Judy Blume was. I know we read quite a few things by her when I was in, middle school, high school, somewhere in there. I think Forever was the most adult thing she wrote back then. And that book is stuck with me. That's actually the only one of hers I can remember reading now. I can't remember any of the titles of the other ones. Hey God, is it me, Margaret? It's Me, Margaret, I think is one of hers. I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, that was the first experience I had reading sex that was with high school characters or kids who are in high school. I think those are important issues to tackle. Those are more so than ever now. More so than ever now.
The way society has changed over the last 20 years, 30 years, I don't know that if I read one of these novels set in for kids of those age, I'm not sure that I would recognize it.
It would definitely
I'm old enough
be.
to where I'm not associated with the youth of today anymore.
Yeah, you're a lot older than I am in so many ways. But even I try and keep touch with what's going on, but mainly through the gaming community, and seeing what animes or whatever are being, the kids are watching and whatnot. But that's about as close as I get. It's about as close as I can get, really. But the
Because
world is
otherwise they
very
arrest you
different.
for stalking.
Yeah, exactly. They take things. Yeah. I avoid mature issues with underage characters, even when the story is written for adults. I know thing happens in real life. I won't write about it. Too many landmines.
At this point in time, it's not illegal to have fictional characters do that, but who knows what the laws will be like in the future.
I believe it just depends on how far you go with it. And the other part of it is, I think you kind of have to be careful as to, I think you have to be very, very careful if there's an adult involved. That's where it gets really bad.
Well, moralistically, you're correct, but I don't believe you can legislate. I don't believe it has been legislated at a large scale saying that writing a fictional story with those kind of events is actually breaking the law. There are too many sites out there where people do publish that type of material,
Mhm.
and it's not child pornography because a child is not actually involved. So at this point in time, which it may change, that's not technically illegal, but it does raise an interesting question. Because what if you, with the way technology has advanced, you can make totally fabricated characters in video these days.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
could create something that doesn't actually involve a child that's video as opposed to text, and that would set somebody's hair on fire. I'm
Uh,
surprised it hasn't happened, honestly.
I would say would be no different than drawing it.
You would say that, but
Technically,
if
it would still
somebody
be.
makes a technically realistic looking character in something, I mean, you could, they have these shows that are anime that are kind of like almost realistic looking. You cross a lot of lines and you're risking that real landmine when you do that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's something. It's a problem, Jr. I have the same issue with a story. There are two stories I want to write where I'm kind of bumping up against that. And I guess the answer is to use the kid gloves as much as possible, at least in the one that's published. Whatever you write, it's a little bit different. Uh, that's bad. I'm ashamed of you for that. Way bad. Oh, those issues were only discussed in whispers and are now talked about openly, at least a lot of them, thankfully.
Are you there, God? It's me,
AYTJ.
Margaret.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my brain didn't.
I had to think
Yeah,
about that for a second, but yes.
my brain went, bleh. I knew the book you were trying to say, but at some point my brain just went off the reservation. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can talk about with adolescents, dealing with death. We have a lot of stories about dealing with death, things like a separate piece, regret, all sorts of things that happen during childhood. A lot of shitty things happen during childhood. A lot of shitty things happen during our childhoods.
A lot of shitty things happen during our adulthood. What are you talking
Too,
about?
yeah. But I think it's important to address those things. There are certain ways to address it, and there are certain ways not to address it. And again, it's what is pornography? I know it when I see it, kind of thing. I think you can have underage characters having sex or fooling around as long as it's not the main point of the story.
It brings it interesting. There is it Arkansas where it's legal for a 14-year-old to marry? So does that mean you could technically write a story about a 14-year-old and their relationship? That seems like
I
you'd
don't
be
want to.
asking to be bashed down somewhere there.
I don't want to. I just don't even want to. I just don't even want to. I would say the way, I mean, most of the disclaimers that you see say all characters are of legal age wherever the fuck you are, you know, kind of deal, to try and skirt around that because they don't actually give the characters ages. But yeah, I don't know. As long as they're cousins.
As long as they're cousins. That's a totally different genre of stories right there.
Oh, God.
This is my brother, sister, wife.
As a guy writing that presents it differently than if you wrote the same thing, Sue. Yes, there is another problem. There is another
Obviously,
issue.
you need a female pen name, JR.
I was going to recommend that. What was the whole thing? If you're going to write gay porn, you want to use a female pseudonym, and if you want to write hetero porn, you use a female pseudonym.
Obviously, you want to be Chuck Tingle. You want to be Tuck Chingle. That's who you want to be.
I have never read anything by Chuck Tingle. Have you actually read a Chuck Tingle book?
I have not. No.
We're losers. We talk shit about him. We've never read it. Terry with an I. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I want to touch those. I wanted to address. Yeah, stop them? It. I want to address those kinds of issues with my characters too. The problem is now I'm like 51 years old. I'm so far fucking removed from it. The only thing I could write that would make sense would have to take place in the 70s or 80s or early 90s. Because I think past that, my knowledge of how things work just falls off a cliff. So if I was going to write something like that, it'd probably take place in that era, or it had to take place in someplace completely fantastical, which one might argue memory is. Now, I'm sure Utah has a young age. Okay, has anybody here read a Chuck Tingle book? Has anybody in the stream read a Chuck Tingle book? Legality and morality are not the same thing. This is true. Very true.
I am sitting here looking at a list that says that Massachusetts, you can, without parental consent, you can get married at 18, but with parental consent, you can be married at 12. 12?
Boy, that's a holdover.
I don't know.
Thinking that
there.
Yeah, I think that law was written back in the 1800s, early 1800s. All right, JR, you're convinced that what? It was like it was written not something in English translated through a mud filter.
Is it like you had the Google AI write gay porn? Is that how this works?
Chuck Tingle doesn't write gay porn.
I don't know. Seems like he does.
Does he write porn?
It's male stuff, as I understand it.
Oh.
And it's definitely erotica.
Okay. I have no idea because I've never read it. The titles are just the titles make the book. I just buy the books just for the title, just to have that in my digital bookshelf.
Just think, if you go ahead and buy one of those, just imagine what the recommendation engine is going to suggest for you next.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I'm afraid. I'm actually afraid to go look at books like that on Amazon because of some bitch, whenever I go look at something, says, oh, you should buy this book by Paul Cooley. I am Paul Cooley, you fucking moron. But you keep recommending my own books to me. That really
obviously they're saying you need to reread them another time before you hit the publish button.
Ooh, fuck you, Terry. Don't dick. According to KDP Rocket, he doesn't earn diddly. Interesting.
Who's finally caught up?
12? Yeah, 12. 12. Be very afraid.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. That seems, I don't care what the law says. I don't think that should work out well for anybody.
When I said I don't remember how things work, I wasn't talking about physically, Sue. It's more on the lines of how kids today find one another, hang out together, express their feelings, everything else, because things have changed drastically. I'm sure some things are the same, but I don't know what they are.
I think she's talking about the marriage laws in Massachusetts.
Maybe.
Because that's where I brought up 12.
Well, I understand that, but she's so far behind, there's no telling what she was talking about. If she was giving me shit about something I said.
So is this the point where we just go ahead and whenever she asks a question, we just answer it by some other subject we talked about?
Yes.
And pretend that it makes sense?
Yes, let's do that. For every new law, remove 2 old ones. In Texas,
For every new politician, remove 2 old ones.
Yeah, there we go. That'd be good. That'd be good right there. In Texas, we have so many laws that are still on the books that just what the fuck? You cannot wear a hat on Tuesday. Why? What was so special about Tuesday?
What the hell went on that they felt the need to pass a law about that?
Exactly. It's like when they pass a law, it's usually because some dumbass did something so egregiously stupid that they felt they had to call it out and say, don't do this. We shouldn't have to tell you not to do this because you're supposed to be smart enough to know not to do this. But because you're so astoundingly stupid, we had to spell it out to say, don't do this. That's why some of this shit exists, because somebody was so goddamn dumb they had to write a law about it. That's what's really sad. We wouldn't need nearly as many laws if we didn't have so many people who are just completely unself-aware of everything.
Well, sadly, we have more people that are unself-aware these days than we did back then.
No comment. No comment whatsoever. What?
What exactly is a licensed premises?
That would be a bar.
Oh, okay. No being drunk in a bar. That's awesome.
You got to be shitting me, Matt. I've been to pubs in the UK. That's why they exist. You get inebriated, then you go to the Indian place down the road. At least that was my experience. That was my experience when I was working with people from the UK. We just go to the pub, get a little lit, and go to have the Indian takeout. Go get the hottest vindaloo they can make. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, I think technically that's true here, though, too. You're not allowed to be inebriated in public, and they're supposed to stop serving you if you're inebriated. Of course, yeah, by the time that you're supposed to be cut off, or by the time they've cut you off, you're way past that anyway. You've reached inebriation, which is why they've cut you off.
I read something that said that everybody that exists that lives today in the United States is probably breaking a felony law once a day.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because there's so many weird laws.
Again, wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me at all.
We have wandered far from.
Oh, we have. Jason said the same reason we have warning labels on consumer products. Yes. This is electric. Please don't drop in water. Please do not use in the bathtub. You will die.
Do not insert any body part into this machine.
Do not insert this machine into any orifice.
Just correct me. It's 3 felonies a day, and that does make sense. That does chime with the memory that I had.
I wonder what felonies I committed today.
What felonies should we do during this podcast today, Paul?
I don't know. I need to go actually look at laws and see which ones I broke today. There's no telling. I probably broke some weird one just by going to get dog food for the mutt. Probably broke one by buying dog food for the mutt. The way things work. Yeah, never enforced, but the law still exists. There's just so much shit that you just have no idea. If a prosecutor really wanted to be a dick, they could trundle out some really old shit, try and go after you with it. But let's face it, man, today's jurors would be like, that is the dumbest goddamn law in the universe. And why the fuck does it exist? Because I broke it 3 times today. I took off a fleece sweater. I did not take off my clothes. I took off an article of clothing. You live in PA, it's got to be at least 5 a day. Well, there's federal felonies, and there's state felonies, and then there's city felonies. So we go down the line here.
Are there city felonies? Can
sure
cities
there are.
actually write felony laws?
I have no clue. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know who can. I know that states can prosecute felonies. I'm not sure that cities can do felonious stuff. I think the city. You always look at the city jail versus the county jail. You know, levels of offender in there. I'm not sure that cities can actually do felony laws.
I have no clue, but it would not shock me. Stripping is stripping. Well, you know, I did do da-da-da-da-da-da. I wasn't wearing my stripper tag, so yeah, I could go to jail for that. It'd be terrible.
You weren't wearing pasties.
Thank Christ for that. Last thing I need is propellers spinning around my nipples, my hairy nipples. Unless you're stripping a piece of furniture or possibly paint. On that note, we wandered far afield from Barry White. Far afield from Barry White. Has
anybody here we go. Now we're going to have suggestions about what Paul's stripper name is.
No.
There's got to be a website for this.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Here we go. Why? 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 Why would you want that?
Let's see. You're a Generation X guy, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. All these questions to go through. You just keep talking. I'm looking up your stripper name right now.
Somebody searched for wire strippers once, which hit our porn filters in the firewall. Got an even better one. Before I got to Enron, their filters were so fucked up that you could not actually get to Java documentation where you're trying to code because it took exception to one thing that was in one of the documents, and it was a class name. So it would not load the Java docs. So nobody could see their documentation because of the porn filter. Guess what got disabled? By the time I got there, yeah, no problem with that. I just blocked other stupid shit.
There's too many questions on this one, so I'll have to find a different stripper name generator.
By the time you find the stripper name generator you want, the show will be over.
You know, it's true.
God, we'll deal with that in a minute.
I'm surprised our listeners haven't come up with one for you.
You know, they probably have better things to do, like ignoring you. Or ignoring me for that matter. Oh God, Terry's got that look on his face. Means bad things are about to happen or be said. How much sex have you had in your books lately?
Me? None.
None
on screen.
I haven't either. Interesting.
Santa Thunder for Terry. Why we're supposed to be looking at Paul's name. Why are you looking at my name?
He does look like Santa Thunder. That sounds like a porn name for sure. Santa Thunder. Got the whole beard. That could be your whole shtick. Santa porn. That's got to be a kink.
You know, it probably is.
Well, I just remember Batter Santa. Fuck me, Santa. Fuck me, Santa. Fuck me, Santa.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, don't call her that. It was bad. That's really bad. When you do have sex with your characters, how far do you go?
Depends on what I'm writing.
Okay.
When I was writing erotica, all the way.
We're not going to talk about erotica. Talking about, I don't know, sci-fi, the kind of stuff you write. If you were going to write a space opera that had a couple of characters that are going to get busy, how detailed would you get?
I would close the door right before things get busy because that's the kind of story I write. Now, I've considered, writing the actual scene and having it as like extra content for my patrons, but, I'm not sure they'd appreciate that.
So again, it all depends on what kind of story you're writing and what your audience expectations are.
Yes, audience expectations is very important.
In Closet Treats, I had a husband and wife, and I closed the door when things got really hot and heavy. Gears Inferno, I did not close the door completely. I gave some more details to that. And there was a reason for that because it just made sense for the story.
Harry Down Under. There's your name, Paul.
Oh my God. So broken. I would not go that detailed in Derelict, though. Not going to happen.
When you're going for a wider audience, it's best not to. But if you're writing an actual romance novel, you can have the getting busy part. It's perfectly acceptable to that audience.
Yeah. Lower thirds. Update the name tags on YouTube. No. I'd have to be Australian to be for Harry Down Under. Quite possibly. I'll probably have sex in those Dr. G books. I'll probably have sex in those. More than likely.
With an AI?
No. Although that does bring up an interesting point about sentient virtual sex with sentient entities. You changed my... You fucker. I gave you the power and you're using it for evil? You bastard! I've taken you off of being an admin. God damn it. Fuck. You dickhead.
I won't do it anymore. That was funny.
Uh-huh. Sure. This is a really interesting question.
It would be in Japan.
What the fuck, Japan? Oh, that's bad. That's a really... I'm trying to remember books where they've had interspecies sex, and I don't recall any. Nothing jumps to the top of my head at the moment. We've seen several sci-fi movies and etc. that have dealt with it, and I know a lot of fantasy deals with it. I don't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't really know how involved how involved it gets behind the scenes. That's an interesting question, though. I don't remember the first Ringworld book dealing with interspecies, but maybe it's just because I'm stupid and old and I don't remember.
I've read Ringworld within the last decade. I don't remember that, but maybe it's there and I just don't recall.
Shifter stuff. The Zon tried to say it was bestiality. Really?
An author named Virginia Wade had her books removed from Amazon because of things along those lines, and she wrote sex with Bigfoot stories.
Oh boy. Boy.
So there, you've got that.
So there's that for your information. Yeah. I got that. That's a really interesting question. What happens when you have two werewolves getting busy? And they're both in Chronos form.
Technically, when you have a vampire and a human having sex, it's necrophilia.
It is necrophilia. Another reason why fucking what's the vampire books that the woman wrote? Twilight. That's another reason why the Twilight stuff creeps me out so much. I'm fucking the dead. Suddenly a TSOL song comes to my head. I want to fuck the dead, and I don't even care how she died.
There should be our bumper right there.
There's 70s punk rock for you. Ghost written some Yeti stuff and heard about that issue. Huh. I never really thought about that. I never really considered that would be an issue, but I guess it could be. I mean, yeah, it could be a problem. I think if the werewolves are boinking, though, it shouldn't be a problem if both of them are werewolf form, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
It's still actually on Amazon. Maybe she got reinstated. But it's all in paper. It's not in Kindle, interestingly. Yeah, it's all paperback. At least this one is.
Spanky astronaut. Nice.
I don't even know about that.
Right, not to have one in shift form and the other human, right? They'd have to be both in the same form. That's okay. That would be the way to get around that. But yeah, I can see that getting kind of bad because, one's wolf and the other one's not. And yeah, that could be icky. Could be icky. Could be considered bestiality. Definitely.
We're talking romance here. Should we really be wandering into bestiality?
It's not bestiality. It's a question of what is considered bestiality.
I suspect if you go by the strict kind of definition that a lot of people would have, anything that's not human to human would be considered bestiality.
Or animal.
Is
to
it a
animal.
space alien? Probably bestiality.
Oh,
I don't think they care whether it's intelligent or not. Most people would go, ew, tentacles, no.
What the fuck, Japan?
What the fuck, Japan?
When they're not perfectly anatomically human. See, we're splitting hairs into about the.
I'm pretty sure that the uncanny valley does not qualify as bestiality.
Well, I don't know. That's crazy. For me, it doesn't really matter all that much because I can't really see myself writing that book, that story. But I guess the Garaga stuff kind of gets close to that. I guess maybe I've been bumping up against it, not even thinking about it. Interesting question. Again, I hadn't really considered that. I really just hadn't considered that. So Risalta in Larry Niven's Dream World, Risalta is sexual practice outside one's own species, but within the intelligent hominoids. Excuse me. See, these little landmines I don't really think about much. I don't really think about these all that much. They just don't come up. But yeah, I guess that could be a problem. It just never occurred to me with shifter fiction.
Humans consider it bestiality. The black considers it lunch.
I had an interesting question about that. Yeah. Well, it just never really occurred to me, JR. I just don't write those kind of stories, so it just never really clicked with me. I know the
Amazon
centaur
is a lot
porn,
more
shit like
concerned with the graphic sexual depiction.
right?
So Paul's probably okay.
Even the Garaga stuff is okay because I get graphic in there, but not erotica level, but it gets graphic. I mean, shit, Eric Van Lospeter's books are on there, and David Morell's, and they can get pretty serious on the sex side, especially Eric Van Lospeter. Jesus, God, that just I just had never really considered that. So if you're writing fantasy, it's okay to have a dwarf and elf go at it, but you can't have a dwarf and a centaur going at it. Is that correct? Oh, that's bad. Thanks, Sue. Sex with them too would be a sizzling, if short, experience. Yeah. Oh, God. Oh.
Now you went and done it.
Oh, no. Sometimes you got to be careful with
the equivalent of
their side of the glory hole, buddy.
Sex with a wood chipper, right there.
That'll be like dipping your schlong into acid. Not something I recommend. What the fuck, Japan? It'll be Terry's new favorite saying when we talk about tentacles. Let the record show, Jason Barter says, let the record show I was not the one who brought up centaurs. This episode. Was it you that did that during the pitch deck? I can't even remember now.
I don't recall.
I can't even
tell
remember. You. Jesus Christ. Well, are there anything else you want to talk about regarding sex, love, romance, and writing? Because we drifted all over the place here. Is there any other questions or comments you got?
I think just to drag it back into the center of what we were talking about, it really depends on your audience, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And you've got to keep them in mind, whatever you're writing, because ultimately your audience's enjoyment of the story is what's going to lead to their satisfaction, whether that be erotic satisfaction or romance satisfaction. So that's my advice.
I know Peter F. Hamilton got some reviews on his on one of his series, or a couple of books that take place in the Commonwealth saga, because they were very, very sex oriented. And he's got an entire the Edenists are very, very sexual in nature. And I think me as a reader, if I saw Edenists, I would be prepared for that. Commonwealth saga, maybe not, because the expectations are different. When you're dealing with a very sexual society, it's likely that somebody's going to have, there's going to be some sex in it, maybe some hardcore sex. But if it's not that kind of society, if it's more puritanical, like American society, you're probably not going to have as much an expectation for that to be there. So yeah, I think you're right about that.
I'm trying to remember, but there was an author that wrote a lot of urban fantasy that went heavily into the erotica content in her mainstream novels. Now I can't recall what her name is.
Clan of the Cave Bear?
I don't think so. I've never read Clan of the Cave Bear.
Okay.
It was a specific series. This woman in particular really delved into, in her own personal life, the having multiple partners, and that bled into her fiction, and she fell down the rabbit hole. And there were multiple books in this series. I just wish I could remember, what it was.
What is the Ma Deuce, JR?
The 50 caliber machine gun.
Oh, no, it will not kill the black. It'll piss it off. It's not going to kill it. If it's big enough, it'll just make it very angry. Yes, Jason, you are the bastard. You are the bastard. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. There's no erotica in Clan. What was it, Valley of the Horses that had erotica in it? One of those had it. One of those had a lot of sex in it. Not erotica, but a lot of sex. I just don't remember if it was that series or another. It was something that came out around the same time. I didn't mean erotica, I meant sex. Two different things. Okay, I was not aware of the Browning 50 Clan of the Love Bear. Yeah, Sue, you missed us singing the Loathe Boat earlier. You totally missed that. You'll have to, watch it on the replay. I did not know the Browning 50 caliber was known as the Ma Deuce. Interesting. Clan of the Love Bear. Never read that book. Actually, I don't think I finished Clan of the Cave Bear either. Never watched the movie, even though Daryl Hannah was in it, and she was yummy, if you know what I mean. Or not. Oh my God, nope. Is it that bad in retrospect, Sue? Is it really that bad? It may just be they're just books. I think there are some of those books are just like for a time period of your life, and after that, they just don't really make a whole lot of sense. I could be wrong. For me, that's Tolkien, and most fantasy, for that matter. Not a slight at that genre or epic fantasy. It's just me. Way too many words going nowhere. Got it. Yeah, I think the better books that you read, the books that are truly masterfully done, I think they age better. I think they age well, and they're timeless. And so when you go back to them, the language isn't hokey, the themes aren't hokey. They touch something more than what you thought they did. And there's there are a lot of John Irving's books that I consider timeless, and it's because every time I go back to them, they get more. I see more, I find more, and they become more relevant now that I've lived a longer life. So it's interesting you say that.
Laurel K. Hamilton. I finally found her name.
Laurel K. Hamilton. She had a vampire series, right?
The one I read was mostly revolved around the Fae. Okay. So she probably did. It's been a long time since I've read any of her books, but I remember that she really fell down the rabbit hole of going into these were books printed by a mainstream publisher that were packed with kinky sex. And I know that there was pushback. I just don't recall if it was enough to stop her.
Laurel K. Hamilton wrote vampire BDSM smut. Okay.
Yeah, that could very well be true. It's been a number of years since I've read that series.
I don't think I ever read anything by her. I've just heard the name quite a bit. Actually, Carrie may have some of her stuff. Carrie may have a lot of her stuff, actually.
There you go. Reading assignment.
I'll have to go look. I think that's the right name. I'll have to go look. There's the other problem, Sue. Yeah. Reading tastes change. What you found that you really loved as a teenager, like if I had tried to go back and read Mac Bolan right now, I probably would not get more than 3 paragraphs in from like, wow, this is bad, and threw it over the shoulder. Yeah, because it was meant for a time, okay, and that time period was okay, and everything else, and it was what it was supposed to be. But there's just not much there now. As looking back on it, there really isn't much there.
I remember reading a lot of the old space opera that was written back in the 20s and 30s by Doc Smith. And it is so dated now that I'm an adult that it's hard. It's real hard to find the things that I loved as a kid about it when I didn't know any better.
That's the sad part of trying to go back and reread stuff from your childhood. And like I said, there are some books that are ageless. They are so well written, and the story is so good, the characters so vivid that they transcend time. And those are the books you go back and you study as a writer. Those are the books. Those are books like Camus' The Plague for me. John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany. Those books just grow. The older you get, they just grow more and more and more. And it's just because of the things that they're tangling with and the skill of the writer. And maybe it's also because when I read them, that they put an imprint on me. And then when I go back to them, I see that imprint is still there, still strong, and still deserves to be there.
I guess one of the problems with reading some of the old science fiction is it's actually from the pulp era.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a very different experience.
Pulp does not age.
Editing, we don't edit. We just write out the words and flop them down in the magazine. That's how we do it here.
Pulp does not age well. I would say Philip K. Dick may be one of the few exceptions to that rule, but pulp does not age well. Are we going to do any more book review episodes? The answer is no.
Yet.
And the reason is because there are very few people who like those episodes. Very few people watch them. And Terry gets very annoyed by them.
I get annoyed by having to read books that I think are terrible. It's all personal taste. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that the books actually are terrible. But for my tastes, I got to sign some real losers.
For my taste,
Dome comes to mind.
Oh, I was never for there for that shit show. But see, if you're going to do a book review show, you got to have time to actually like read. And the problem is, what Terry considers light reading is 700 pages. What Paul considers light reading is 200.
I'm not an epic fantasy reader.
Motherfucker,
what I'm
3 fucking times you recommended some goddamn tome. We'll get this done by next week. It's 800 pages, Terry. Is it really that long? Yes.
I did recommend one epic fantasy for you because, you hate epic fantasy. So, that was a targeted blast right there. But the other ones I don't recall.
What a dick. What a dick. Yes, life's too short for bad books. Definitely agreed. You're allowed to have a DNF. You're allowed to DNF.
What the fuck does that even mean?
A fucking men.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was like,
not a fucking men, but a fucking men. Things that happen when Terry loses the plot. The context just went right over his head. Why is he fucking a man on this show? What? There are some books that I would really love to talk about the ins and outs of. Ed Lauren, actually, if you go to his YouTube channel, he's doing, and you're a horror fan, he has done a series where he's basically reviewing every single Stephen King book. And they're really, really interesting, his reviews. He's pretty good about any book that he reviews. He's pretty salty and pretty stark in his opinions, and not below talking shit. But he is a good writer, and has a really good flair for doing the critical analysis of things. So that's something you might want to check out if you want to go look at some of the reviews that are going on there. And they're only like 5 or 10 minutes, not doing exhaustive bullshit. But there is something to be said for dissecting the book and looking at it and trying to figure it out. And I think I've said this before. I know I've said this before, and I'm sure Terry would agree with at least some of it. If you really love a book on your first read, you might want to read it again and find out why.
That's the thing. That's the advice. I need to do it more often, like ever.
It's why if I really love a movie, I will go dissect the shit out of it and find out why. Why did I like it? Because I want to know, because that's something I can probably bring into my own stories. It's something I could bring to my own characters. That's why I watch really shitty movies on occasion, because I want to look at and find the pieces of whimsy and serendipity that are there that were too good for that movie or too good for that book. They were too good to be there. Steal them, put them in a better story. You can do better, so do better. That isn't to say that there aren't a lot of B movies or B grade books, C grade books. I don't have a lot of really good ideas, just were not executed well. But if you like something, sitting down and figuring out why you like it, it's an experience. And that was part of what we did in college was, the whole point of getting that literature degree is not so you can babble about, some author wrote something in 1762 that did this. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do about studying the human condition over time. It had to do about discovering human beings. It had to do with figuring out where all of that fits in the world. So in my mind, a literature degree is not a waste of anybody's fucking time. because it's a lot about finding yourself, finding your own place in the world, and will broaden everything about how you see the world. At least that was my experience. Do you still enjoy a book film after you've torn it apart? Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!
If I'm tearing it apart because I enjoyed it, yes. Sometimes you tear something apart a little bit because it did something that just did not work. And you're like, where did this train leave the station? Where did this wreck begin?
It's really funny you mentioned that because Joe Hill's Horns. I really enjoyed the book. And then Terry, Justin, and I reviewed it. And while we were reviewing it, the story fell apart for me.
Oh, that sucks.
It was one of those where I look back on it like I would have been much happier if we'd never reviewed that book on the show. I'd have been much happier because I enjoyed it on first read. But then when Justin started poking holes and you started poking holes, like, God damn it, you fuckers destroyed the book. You wrecked it. You wrecked it for me.
I honestly don't remember what my criticisms of it might have been. I didn't particularly enjoy that style of story, but for what it was, it seemed okay.
There were just some things about agency that Justin brought up, and
Justin was a vicious reviewer. He would take a scalpel to something.
Oh, he was a prick. He was a total prick. Remember someone saying jokes are like frogs. You can disassemble it and learn a lot, but neither can survive the process. There are movies that I will put on just as noise because I know them back to front. I've watched them so many times. I've listened to them so many times. Sometimes it's just the soundtrack. Sometimes it's just the sound effects. Sometimes it's just the mood. And sometimes it is because the dialogue is just too goddamn good not to listen to. Going back and rereading something, going back and watching something again is, I think, extremely important for discovering why you like what you like. And while that may seem like it's not an important thing, I think it is. In my mind, doing some of that self-analysis and looking at that as an artist helps you find your way, and I think can help you hone your style. I think it can also help when you're coming up to a problem with the book.
I just read a new book from an author that I haven't read in a while, and she has a way of taking a series of events set up over a couple of scenes and taking it from something relatively normal to something utterly ludicrous that's happening over the pierce of the pace of those two scenes that she'll write it out. And I've gone back and reread some of those scenes and going, okay, now how did she take it? One step to the next. It's like boiling a frog. You just keep turning up the heat and turning up the heat and adding the pressure. And suddenly, even though it still makes perfect, utter, total sense what's happening, you as the reader are going back, oh yeah, this train just went off the cliff. Here we go.
We have now moved from 10 to 11, and let's hope there isn't a 12. Oh, don't worry.
There was a 12.
20. There's always
there
a 12.
was absolutely a 12 in that particular one. I've never seen any of the other author do that, but I reread those scenes because I enjoyed them, and I said, all right, I'm never going to write something like that, but I want to understand a little bit better how that progression worked, because it was so enjoyable watching the steps go through as I was reading it. How did she put that together to where it didn't feel like it was being stuffed in there, yet the tension and the events just kept getting higher and higher?
Carl Hyacin and Joe Lansdale are just masters of taking the most ridiculous shit, turning it up to 11, and then you sitting back and going, wow, this is so fucked up, because it's just piling on exaggeration after exaggeration after exaggeration. And if you're good at it, you can make it work.
Let me walk you through this. It'll only take a minute here to walk through this particular plot line that I thought was so amusing. The story was urban fantasy, and the main character is a Dampier, half human, half vampire. So I never knew Dampiers existed, but apparently that's a thing. That's a real thing.
It is a thing.
And it starts off with them being kidnapped by some Fae and taken to the Fae realms. They're in a bubble of force as they're transitioning between universes. It's their prison, basically. They kill all of their captors that are with them and manage to drop themselves out of the ley line somewhere other than where the enemy was expecting them to be. And so they're sitting in the Fae lands, and she's looking out there, and oh, look, there's that cute little thing there with that. And the guy with her is screaming and pointing behind her at this dragon that's coming to look and see what's messing with its little baby. And so it starts beating on this force sphere, trying to crack it open. And they're trying to roll away from the baby so they can get out of this. And of course, it starts rolling downhill toward a cliff, and the dragon is chasing them down the cliff. So they're headed towards disaster now. And then the dragon takes another swipe at them and uses its tail like a baseball bat and sends it flying out over the edge of the cliff. And when they clear the cliff, they see a Fae ship full of elves that they basically smash through like a cannonball before dropping in the river and then rolling over a falls. And as the story was written out, you're like, okay, we just keep amping it up a little bit, amping it up about it. And then you're being used as a baseball to smash through a flying ship. You're like, how did I get here?
How did
I fucking get here?
How did I get here, and how do I get out of here? Even better question. Yeah, you can keep piling on things over and over again. If you really love a plot, dissect it. Look at the movements. Look at how the transitions work. If something strikes you and you really, really liked it, it doesn't necessarily affect your enjoyment up to go see how it worked. Sometimes the magic trick is better. It's better to know how it was done, and it's even more impressive.
I like reading Nora Roberts because of the ways that she handles her prose and her dialogue. And I'll reread bits and pieces of what she does because she has a way of turning phrase that I like. And I feel like I can learn something from that.
As writers, I think the most important thing you can do is pay attention to those moments. And film helps with that. Obviously, good literature does, good writing in your genre does. But taking the time to sit there and go, why did that work for me? I think is actually kind of important.
If you sit there and say, oh, that's cool, pursue it a little bit. See, why is it cool?
Yeah, why is it cool? What was cool about it, really? And usually if it's a visual effect or something like that, I'm not at all interested in figuring out how that worked. I don't give a shit. I'm more interested in watching character reactions or plot devices or the timing and pacing of something. And how that character progression worked for me, or how that plot progression worked for me, or whatever. I think those are very important pieces. And also it's also as much about what's missing as what's put in there. What details did the author not fuck with because they didn't add anything to it? Is that starkness something you can learn from in your work? Or are there points where you just need to stop trying to describe and start having shit happen?
I've always been a description sparse kind of author. And I'm not sure where I picked that up from.
I know where I picked mine up from. Damn you, Ray Carver! Yeah, I'm kind of that school, although I've had to get more descriptive over time. Actually, I'm okay with that. Station 3, I spent a lot of time on atmosphere. I had to. And I had a lot of fun, but there were still times where I had to pull back because we had to get moving. You have to get the characters moving. But man, there was so much nasty I wanted to describe in that book. I had to pull back. It was very depressing.
You look like you're traumatized by it.
Yeah, I'm very traumatized. As I wait for beta reader comments to come in.
That's because you're hurtful.
Hurtful and hateful. That's me. That's the Pablo. Well, we've been going at this for 2 hours and 14 minutes, Terry.
I think we've said enough. We've said more than enough.
You probably have.
We should actually just have cats from this point forward.
Shadow is probably up for that task. She's like, what?
That's Mr. Thomas. It's a he.
Sorry. Well, if you've got a comment to add about this horrific shit show we just had, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find us at Facebook at the listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where Terry wrangles things. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. You can find us at youtube.com/DRS podcast to see our ugly mugs. And oh my God, too many cats.
Today, too many cats.
Yeah. If you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows and mostly unexpurgated episodes and other madness. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are. Paul has to go look them up.
Oh, this doesn't happen every week.
It doesn't happen every week, just most weeks. I do occasionally have my shit together. I have excuses for today.
Do you have a doctor's note?
No. And our $10 patrons are Summer Wilson, Tony L. Joy, Andrew Smallwood, Veronica Chikere, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Chris Winder, and Isabel Cushy. Thank you to all of our patrons for helping out and making this show possible. And speaking of making this show possible, we have to thank our wonderful sponsor, Corpse Coffee. It keeps Terry and I caffeinated for all the really tough times that we're, working on around the clock, trying to figure out what crazy shit we should say next, or basically
word wrangling.
How to get out of bed. Caffeine kind of helps with that. So, you like caffeine, you like webcomics, you like tea, go up to corpsecoffee.com, check out their wares and what they got. Tell them DRS sent you and get the dead in your cup. With that, we're going to get out of here. Really enjoying Station 3 at the moment. Reminds me a lot of the Doom games. Yes. 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 That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Spanky Astronaut, if you sign up with that name. Jason, don't. Just don't. With that, we are going to get out of here so that Terry and I can go back to doing whatever the hell it was before we interrupted ourselves to come talk to you wonderful people.
I've got more Reacher to watch.
I've got writing to do and other stuff to do and coding to do.
Yeah, by 5 o'clock, my writing brain is dead.
Mine's probably dead. I need to think about food, actually. Food, actually. That needs to be a title of a book.
That needs to be a book title. Food, actually.
Food, actually. With that, we're going to get out of here. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope we entertained you a bit. You can always go find the VOD on YouTube. So if you didn't catch us live, that you really did not have to put that out there. You really did not.
I totally needed to put that out there.
Yeah.
Because it used to be a thing with people changing their names on Patreon all the time. I
know. They stopped. I don't know why. I don't know why they did, but they stopped. All right, folks. Take care, and we will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.